We are on the afternoon break in the live evidence of Julian McKinney and Frankie Flood deceased. It really feels like there is a ghost at the feast. Yeah, R.I.P. We both men are answers have been given by one man. This afternoon, we have heard in great detail about the fallout from the arrest and, most importantly, the charging of Robert Hastings at the Dicey protests of 2007, which led to the resignation of HN72. We've heard about the finances of the SDS and the shocking level of overtime that they were receiving, which was then about to be curtailed, which led to some sort of revolt, which all these things in part leading to the winding up of the unit. I'm joined by Evelyn Lubbers of the Undercover Research Group. What have you made of what we've heard?
Yeah, we were talking about whether this was the most revealing witness of all managers, and I think he's scoring high points there. He's given us loads of insights in the inner workings of the SDS and the atmosphere, which he at a certain point described as toxic, in the sense that
there was criticism of him that it was toxic. He refutes that it was.
Yeah. So, but he said that they were resistant to any change and they wanted to do everything as they had always done it. He said that he had been the first one to do a financial review of how the money was spent.
Yeah, there have been no auditors ever before. When he was drawn to the to Carlos Saraki's rent book, and the fact that this was just done for the auditors, there were never any. I was the first person to bring in an auditor,
which is incredible. Which is what we kind of guessed.
Yeah.
But to hear it in so many words from someone so high up, that is quite a thing. He got like very agitated about the arrest of Hastings and the fact that he was in court and convicted.
We went through that in a lot of detail. We were taking through so many handwritten notes.
We're not going to repeat that here.
No, it was so long-winded.
The idea was that it was someone's fault and not his.
Yes.
And in the end, he blamed HN72, who then said, if you don't trust me any longer, I'll leave. So that was like...
I mean, not only did he accept the resignation, but he already had someone to replace him lined up. So that happened on the Friday, and on the Monday, the new guy started, which was,
also so he was already going to sort of push it to make him resign, and he didn't fire him, so he was not to blame.
I mean, he did say that he said basically that he had been held to ransom by another unit as part of this wider modernisation process that he was taking part in, because he was DCI of more than one unit at that time. That some other unit had tried to hold him to ransom in a similar way by offering to resign when there was no one else lined up, leaving him exposed.
That was not going to happen to him again. So he had like a plan B, so to say, or it's better to say that he had his strategy planned out and pushed HN72 out. So it's not,
the nub of it was that basically he felt that HN72 didn't act quick enough to inform the CPS about the fact that an undercover officer had been arrested. He couldn't believe that Gold Command of the Dicey protest wasn't informed there was an undercover officer being deployed that day. The fact that the CPS weren't informed meant that there was a charge, happened very quickly, which ended up being that he and Frankie Flood had to go to the Snaresbrook Crown Court and have a meeting with the CPS there and ask for the charges to be dropped.
Please. Give them back.
I mean, what we've heard from HN72 is that he did it the way that it had always been done.
Yeah, so he didn't know any better, or he did know better, or like they were not going to change their ways, and it had always worked this way. So why make a fuss? And then someone coming in with more of a, I'm hesitating to say this, moral standard.
Well, I mean, it's certainly just like normal police. Like he said that since 1983, when he first went to Hendon, he was aware that something you would never ever do was mislead a court, and that he was very alive to that being a problem, and like that it couldn't allow that to happen.
Yeah, but in HN72's eyes, they weren't misleading the court. They would tell them, like sort of eventually, or at least they would save their officers. They would never. So that was one of his like things that he got angry about. It's like, why bring your officers in such a danger? And his good friend Frankie Flood would never have done it. The amount of times that he has said, my good friend, he was respectable. My good friends, we were good friends. It's like, so like you say, it was like they both give evidence, or he would talk for Frankie if himself hadn't been there. Sorry.
We then got on to the finances, and I mean, I think one of the most shocking parts was the overtime. It turned out that though we've heard there was huge reforms into the levels of overtime in the 1980s, by the mid 2000s they were on a guaranteed 135 hours of overtime per month, which basically, I mean, as Julian McKinney put it, was that like that meant they were on more than double their salary, which was the highest paid police officers he was aware of. No one was getting paid more than that. So there was Frankie Flood went and researched best practice and came back with a 55% reduction in overtime, which he said knew would result in a mutiny.
Right.
Well, a mutiny by the officers. They wouldn't accept it. The mass resignations.
Yeah. So it's like, like, combined with the perks of the job of having a relationship and absolute secrecy about that, there's the enormous amount of money. And we've heard from undercover officers, like they've said over and over that the money wasn't the reason to stay, like, and it's like, is that believable? No. And there have been a lot of moments where you say, like, stuff that he told was like, was that believable? No. And also he
it was put to him that was this the reason for the fact that so many undercover officers wished to continue their operations despite the fact that it was operationally unnecessary, and he said, well, I have no actual proof for that, but it would be his belief that was the case.
So this is kind of it's a good sort of it's not the last day, but the day before last, sort of finally someone who acknowledges loads of the things that have been said and have been denied and ignored or not answered by many other officers and undercover officers. So in that sense, it was a very important day, although there's still so much more to be acknowledged.
There's still so much to be acknowledged, and I'm very aware that the going through of the decision making, going through all those handwritten notes, that was probably about an hour of the last hour and a half. It was a lot. It was a very lot. There is more to come. It's only a short break. We're only given 10 minutes this time. But please do join us at the end of the day. We'll have I'll get a few more guests in, and we'll like review the whole day, because there's been so much that's been covered over the course of the day with this witness. Little topics which I don't think we've been able to cover properly. So please, anything else you'd like to add?
No.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you all again in a bit.